Hi, I'm Catherine Culpepper, and this is my Action Research Study Project presentation. And my research study was titled The Effect of Mentor Sentences on Sentence Writing in First Graders. My research question for this project was, does using mentor sentences as a teaching strategy improve sentence writing ability in first graders? I am a first grade teacher. This is my 11th year as a teacher, but it's only my second year as a first grade teacher. So I'm still learning the ways that first graders are writing and learn to write. My previous 9 years, I taught fourth grade reading and writing. So dropping down from fourth grade to first grade was a big adjustment. So I'm still learning about first graders and their writing, but I used mentor sentences, which is a teaching strategy, which I'll get into that in the next couple of slides. I used that in my fourth grade classroom to teach grammar and to teach writing, and I wanted to know if mentor sentences would be beneficial in first grade to help them to improve the way that they write their sentences. So I chose this topic because while my first graders are writing in their journals, I noticed that they weren't writing incomplete sentences. They would maybe only write a word or two as their sentence. They would be able to tell me their answer of the writing prompt in a complete sentence, but they weren't able to express that complete sentence and write the words in that sentence. They weren't capitalizing the first word of their sentence, and they weren't putting periods at the ends of their writing either. So I wanted to find a fun, good way to teach the first grade students about sentence writing. And if you've never heard of mentor sentences before, mentor sentences is used differently in the younger grades than it is in the older grades. But basically, it's a sentence that's pulled from a text, and the text could be a picture book. It's most likely the texts come from picture books, or it could be a magazine or a newspaper or a novel in the older grades. But it's one sentence or a group of sentences that's pulled from a text, and it's used to teach a specific grammar skill, or it can be used to teach a writing style or a writing trait. So some of the grammar skills that it can be used to teach, for example, could be punctuation, capitalization, parts of speech. So say you pull a sentence is pulled from a text that has a plural noun in it. For example, I like to eat apples. So you would use that mentor sentence and focus on the word apples to teach plural nouns. Or you could use, if you're in the older grades and you're trying to teach maybe sound words, onomatopoeias, you could find a sentence in a book that has a sound word. And so you would use that sentence to teach that writing style. So mentor sentences are good to use to teach grammar and writing because it shows students real life examples of writing. It shows them not just sentences that the teacher created and wrote on the board, but it shows them real sentences from real books that real authors wrote. And it models what good writing looks like. It models specific grammar skills and writing traits, and it gives them examples of the kinds of sentences that they can write. So if they see that an author wrote this type of sentence or a sentence with these kinds of words in it, then they know that they can use that sentence as a model or a guide to help them to be able to write those types of sentences. So looking into the research on mentor sentences, I found a lot of things that talked about how mentor sentences are good and mentor texts are good to use in the classroom because it models what good writing looks like what quality writing looks like. A lot of times teachers will teach specific grammar skills by maybe writing a sentence on the board that has a lot of mistakes in it and having the students correct those mistakes, which is good to do, but you want to make sure that you're showing your students what good writing looks like. You know, what we expect of their writing. So, for example, the second reference here says from Albert in 2014, it says, if we want students to do something well, it helps to both tell them and to show them what we expect. So not only do we want to show them, or more so, instead of showing them the things that are wrong with writing, we want to show them the good things in writing in the way that writing should look. So in my study, I used my first grade class, which consists of 11 female students and 9 male students. So 20 first grade students in all. I work in a Title I elementary school, a small rural elementary school. My study was 6 weeks, lasted 6 weeks, and it was an in-class study. It happened during the day. It wasn't before school or after school. It was in addition to the rest of the classroom academics. And it was conducted in a whole group setting. So my research design, the mentor sentence lessons that I used were actually lessons that have been created and I purchased off of a website called Teachers Pay Teachers, and they are called Ideas. The writer of them is called Ideas by Jivy, and she created the daily mentor sentence lessons, which comes with the scope and sequence. You can purchase the yearly bundle, and it comes with the scope and sequence for every day and all the lessons and all the materials that come with it. And you can purchase those in a grade cluster. So the grade cluster that I used for this project was K through 1. And like I said previously, I've had experience with mentor sentences before when I taught 4th grade. And when I taught 4th grade, I used the grade clusters 4 or 5 of mentor sentences. The mentor sentence lessons lasted about 15 to 25 minutes per day, depending on what you were doing that day. So it didn't take a long time. I used both quantitative and qualitative data. For the quantitative data, I took results on a pre and a post test. I gave them a pre-test at the beginning of the study, and I counted how many students used capitalization, punctuation, and complete sentences. And then I took those numbers and I compared them to the post-test numbers after the 6 weeks of the lessons. And then for qualitative data, I would take anecdotal records twice a week on what I was noticing students were doing in their writing when they were writing in their writing journals each day. So this is how the mentor lessons kind of went throughout the week. Every day you complete part of the lesson for the week. On day 1, you read the mentor text, which I said is usually like a picture book, and you discuss the mentor sentence together. And students will put that, well, first of all, as you're discussing the mentor sentence, you have the students kind of talk about that sentence. I ask them, what do you notice about this sentence? What do you notice is special about this sentence? And they should answer things like, well, it starts with a capital letter, or it ends with a period, or it has 5 words in it, or maybe it has a comma, or it has a noun. So you kind of talk about what they notice in the sentence. And the more that you do that, the more things that they will be able to pick up on and to notice. And then after you discuss the sentence, you give them the sentence in a puzzle. It's kind of mixed up, and they have to cut it out and glue it in the correct order. So that's what they do on day 1. On day 2, you're using this time to teach the specific grammar skill that you pulled from that sentence. So for example, if you're going to be teaching about plural nouns, you'll give a plural noun lesson, and then they will complete an interactive notebook foldable activity that goes along with plural nouns and the mentor sentence that they put in a mentor sentence notebook. On the 3rd day, they start to write their own sentence. Think about this. Let's think about the sentence from earlier. I don't remember exactly what I said. Something along the lines of, I ate a lot of apples. Okay, so we're talking about plural nouns, apples. Well, on day 3, as a whole group, students would think about, you would take the word apples, you would remove it from the sentence, and students have to think of other plural nouns that they can plug into that sentence that would make sense. It has to be a plural noun because that's what you're focusing on for that week, and it has to make sense. So maybe students could say chips or candy bars. They would work as a whole group to plug in other plural nouns. And then on day 4, they rewrite the entire sentence independently, and they plug in a plural noun. It could be one that you discussed yesterday, or it could be a different one that they thought of, but they would be rewriting that sentence independently, plugging in their own plural noun that they thought of. And then on day 5, you give them a grammar quiz that is based upon that grammar skill for the week. So for example, they would have a grammar quiz on plural nouns at the end of that week. So each day for about 15 to 25 minutes, every week for 6 weeks, I would go through this process with a different mentor sentence each week. So at the beginning of the study, I conducted a pretest. I gave them a piece of lined paper, and I just simply asked them to write about a time when they did something fun. I didn't help them with spelling, punctuation. I didn't help them with anything. I wanted it to be totally independent. I gave them as much time as they needed to write. And then I collected data from the pretest. I counted how many students used a capital letter, how many used a period, and how many wrote in a complete sentence. So after the pretest, for 6 weeks, I did the daily mentor sentence lessons, administered as a whole group. Twice a week, I would take the anecdotal records as they were writing in their writing journal time. Now, writing journal time was a separate time than the mentor sentence lessons. This was just about 10 minutes that we take every day to write to a writing prompt. That kind of goes along with the month or the holidays that are coming up or things like that. And then after the 6 weeks, I conducted a post test, and I gave them that same lined paper, blank lined paper, and I gave them the same prompt. I said, write about a time when you did something fun. And again, I didn't help them with spelling, punctuation, or anything like that. and I collected data from that. I counted the number of students who used punctuation,